Welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast with your host Eric and Tiffany Vogel. We've spent several hard years building a rental property portfolio so we can have more time with our family and live our ideal life. Now, finding your path can be difficult, so we're here to guide you along the way with lessons, tips, and tricks to design and implement your dream life. Now, sit back, turn up the volume, smash that follow button, and get ready for this episode of the On Purpose Investor. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Eric, as many of you like to hear, Eric. And we are so excited to have a special guest on our show today, and where we're continuing our interview series, diving in deep and talking about hyper-intentionality within your real estate investing business. Today, we have Mr. Mike Hicks, as people, I think, call him Big Mike. So, Mr. Mike, welcome to the On Purpose Investor Podcast. We're so excited to have you here. How are you today?
Doing great, Eric. How's it going?
Oh, it's going well. We've been cooking these interviews for a while and reaching out to folks, and some people reaching out to us. And I was super excited to get a response from you that you'd be on our show. I think what you have to offer is going to help our audience and just drive our mission. And we're super excited to hear your story today.
Yeah, happy to be here. Let's do it.
So, first off, what's new with you? What's the new big fangled project you're working on now?
Man, I'd say it's a combination of a few things, but we're still looking for the unique properties and tiny homes, and trying to one up the last build, and that's always a challenge in itself. So just trying to come up with the next unique thing.
That's right. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and we're going to spend about 10-15 minutes just letting you tell us some stories. So first of all, what do you invest in? Tell us a little bit about what your portfolio looks like. And what do you do?
And so trying to get dialed into what I love, but my background is I started out as a builder, single family homes at 19, and started building new construction. Then started slowly adding rentals here and there, and then we've kind of shifted our portfolio and let go of some of the rentals and added self storage and commercial warehousing and short-term rentals, and then we moved into unique short-term rentals to where it's got to be a unique property and then a unique accommodation on top of that. So kind of where we are right now.
That's awesome. And I think you're not saying it, but my listeners would probably love to hear about some of those unique properties, like the treehouse or the what do you call them? The container homes? Is that right?
Yeah, container homes, yeah.
Can you give me like a 5-minute little thing about those two things?
Yeah, I mean, they're small, so I don't know if I can get 5 minutes out of it. But yeah, no, we started with this idea. I just watched it on YouTube and seeing pictures on Instagram, and thought, man, I got to build one of these shipping container houses. So I built it in my office parking lot, and it sat there for a little while because I'm like, what do I do with this thing now? It's kind of built more as let's show codes enforcement what it can be, not what their perception is. Mm-hmm. And we played with those with that one for about a year. It sat in the parking lot, and finally, codes enforcement didn't get the picture, but they did say, hey, you need to move this or we're going to cite you. So, that was a little motivation to go ahead and get it moved. And, we went off on our New Year planning trip, and I said, okay, we got to find a cool place to put this. As soon as we get back, we'll start looking. And so we just started driving. Old school. I'm old school. I like to drive for dollars. I like to sit at people's tables and negotiate. So that's what we did. We got out and started driving in the areas that we wanted to build in and place this, and found a great lot, and it's on the side of a mountain right on a cliff. So we were able to pick that lot up, and we built that one, put that one on, and built 2 more there. And after we finished those, we said, well, what's next? So that ended up being a tree house. So we found another property on the brow and built the tree house up, and got that online and rented out. And now we're working on an A-frame village, an A-frame tree house in Blue Ridge. Got a VW bus that we're making a hippie hideaway out of, or a van down by the river. Chris Farley theme, Saturday Night Live theme, living in a van down by the river. That will go with that.
Wow. Oh yeah.
And then a grain silo, and I don't know. I may put an airplane up in a tree. I don't know. Who knows what I'll do next?
That Swiss Family Robinson
That's
hideout.
right. That's right.
Oh, that's so cool. So what you do, and that's just one part of your business, and what you do in that one part of your business, so creative, so imaginative, and you get to create these unique uh, rentals and these unique stays for families to come and create memories in. And
Sure.
I think what you're doing with that is, very important. I don't want to dive into the whole, where is Airbnb in the next 20 years conversation, because that could take a
Yeah, we
series.
could go on forever.
But yeah, that's right. But I do think what you're doing right now is one of those things that you're not just renting your bedroom out in downtown Atlanta. You're creating an experience, and I think that is going to be a unique thing that is here to stay, in my personal
I
opinion.
think so. I truly believe that. And you mentioned creating spaces for families to go and visit and experience, and that's the most rewarding part of this is seeing the comments and the shares and the views, and it just these properties have been on A&E. They've been on viewed millions of times on TikTok and Instagram, and shared I couldn't tell you how many times. So
Right.
seeing that and seeing the people's reactions, that's worth it in itself.
That's right. There's nothing light about saying, yeah, the property I spent so much time and energy into to create an experience, more or less, creating revenue. When you drove into that mission of I want to create this experience, you can see that it has paid off tenfold, not just by the income that it produces, but how people appreciate it. And
Oh,
it
definitely.
seems like they are taking from it what you wanted to put into it and you wanted the outcome to be. And I'm sure that didn't just happen overnight for you to, just come up with this and say, well, yeah, I'll do this one thing. I guess what I'm getting at is you had a vision to create an experience. You had a plan to create something memorable.
Yeah, it's probably 4 or 5 years in the making. I mean, everybody sees the finished product and think, wow, that's great. and oh, that was easy. But no, it's a lot of looking, a lot of planning, a lot of like visioning, and just writing things out and sticking to a plan.
Yeah. So let's back up about 20 years or so. And I know you mentioned to me something about your mom and a lawnmower and kind of how you got started, how that catapulted you into this lifestyle. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
You're being very generous. 20 years that put me at 21. So you got to go back another 10. You got to 30 years, man. So yeah, I mean, and it goes back even further than that. I mean, just I don't know what it is or where it came from, or both my parents my mom worked at home with us, and my dad was a W-2, and my granddad was a builder, and then but still worked a full-time job as a maintenance director at a mill here. So I don't know, if it's just something you kind of pick up or what, but early on I saw that if I wanted things, I had to figure out a way to pay for it. It wasn't just here's you some money, go buy it. So I learned real young that hey, I can produce this and get what I need to go and buy what I want. And that was probably at 6 or 7 years old, and it was, putting on a bicycle show in the street for the neighbors and charging them 50 cents a piece to watch me ride my bike up and down the road. But yeah, it got to 10, 12 years old, and it was more and more prevalent. Like, we didn't do without, but we'd go on a youth trip or a camping trip with the scouts, and these kids were coming with $100, and my parents were sending me with 25, and expecting me to get through the weekend with it. And it pained me to see that hey, that money wasn't necessarily there for them. I don't, I would try to leave with that 25 and come back with 10, because I didn't want to spend all their money. So then I saw, okay, I need to produce my own income to where I don't have to depend on theirs to get what I need. And I started cutting grass, and that was at 12. But the biggest thing that I look back on and is I guess the commitment from my mom, to take me. They bought me a lawnmower. It was $100, and I paid them back. But they would pick me and the lawnmower up at home and take me to wherever my yards were to mow. And it was a push mower, and I was push mowing these small yards for $10, $11. It was just, but man, I always had the money that I needed. But yeah, for her to commit to that, and now being a parent, I appreciate it even more. Seeing what they gave up to instill a good work ethic in us, and to put that work to work.
Yeah. No, so that hustle mentality that
Yeah.
I feel lacks in the many aspiring entrepreneurs is so that hustle mentality, I feel like that is one of the big secret sauces into success when it comes to any entrepreneurial adventure, because it does take grit. It does take, just hustling and not accepting no as an answer. It's, aspiring to be self-sufficient and not depending on someone else or something else to give you the money, like a job.
Yeah.
So,
And that was, the other thing that my dad always said, and you hear the, don't say can't, whether you think you can or you can't. You're right.
that's right.
His was always can't, never could. If he heard me say can't, I can't do this. Well, can't, never could. And that stuck with me. And then the other thing that he would say was, if somebody tells me I can't do something, it's going to make me want to prove it even more. And that's what, that's the way I've lived. It's just, don't tell me I can't do it, because I'll show you that I can.
I had a pretty backwoods neighbor growing up that always said, "Oh, Eric, listen here now. Can't never could, 'cause can't ain't never tried." And I'd
Can't
say,
ain't never tried. I had to add that to mine.
I was like, all right, well, I guess, yeah, you're right. Can't never tried, so I guess you never could. So, yeah, that's one thing that stuck with me too. He was a construction worker and just ran his own business. He was an entrepreneur looking back, and it was a good lesson to learn there.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to dive in a little bit into some of the things that make the on-purpose investor the on-purpose investor, and that is hyper intentionality is our mission, and sharing with our listeners how that can truly transform someone's life. And first question I have for you is, when you first got started, what was that deep burning inspiration? What drove you? What inspired you?
Man, that's tough. It's hard to say what, and I still feel like, even back then, even before I started building, I took off to, as a, 12, 13, 14, my best friend's dad was a developer. So I started working with him, and that was, he was putting roads in and developing land for subdivisions, and then his partner would do the building. So my job after school and in the summers was to come in once they got the road in and get the curbs in, and they came in with the dozer and graded the lots. Well, some of the dirt spills over onto the road. Well, so and then they would sow the seeds. Well, my job was to come back and shovel all the dirt that spilled over onto the road off. And these are 6-7 miles of roads and subdivisions, and doing it both sides of the road. And then, once we got the dirt shoved back, we'd take and come in with the straw. After they come in with their big seeder on the back of the tractor and do it mechanically, we had to straw the entire neighborhood. The full length of the neighborhood and 30 feet back from the road. So that kind of got me around the new construction and seeing that. He would take us fishing, and we spent the summers at the lake at his lake house, and just seeing the lifestyle that he lived. And then there was one day, 14, 15-year-old, and and this is in the early 90s, that this developer, we're stopping at the bank on the way to go to the lake, and he's depositing a $20,000 check, and he's like, "How would you like to deposit 3 or 4 of those a week?" I'm like, I didn't say anything, but man, it left an impression on me. So, I kept working with him. I kept doing my yards. I worked as a lifeguard. Just whatever I could do to earn an income, and the whole time I was like, kept telling my parents, I want to buy this house, I want to buy this house, or I want to buy this, or I want to buy, it was a real estate investment because they had, 2 or 3 rental properties. So I wanted to do that. I could see then that, hey, if I have enough of these, I don't have to work. And, I didn't realize, I still have to work, but not as
but
hard
you're
as
working for yourself.
Yeah, I'm working for myself, not punching a clock for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So, it just took, it's just a culmination of things, and you get to a point, and you've got your parents that you've listened to your whole life telling you got to go to college, and then you've got this other influence in your life that that went to college, played football on a scholarship, got a degree, came home, taught school, and then made his own way as a developer. And I'm sitting here looking like, well, that education is not part of what he's doing. And then over here, I'm being told to go to college. Well, I made it 6 months, a semester and a half, and I was like, "This isn't for me. I'm going home." So I went home, and I went to the developer and I said, "Hey, I'd like to build a house." And so he fronted me the lot on paper, didn't record it, to where I could go and use that lot as collateral at the bank. Built the first house at 19 and bought my first rental house at 20. And looking back, everybody was like, "Wow, look at Michael, look at what he's done." That probably gave me a big ego. I mean, it put me in a place where I was comfortable and thinking, look at what I'm doing compared to what other people my age are doing. I'm so far ahead of the game. This is lights out. And this was before Bigger Pockets, and I internet wasn't big. It was AOL, and you don't have the website saying come to the RIA. Heck, I'd never heard of a RIA, and I know they were around, but I'd never been to one. So in my pocket, as a 19, 20-year-old, I'm doing good things, and that hurt me in the sense that I wasn't looking and hanging around with people that were doing more. Yeah. And so it didn't cause me to strive for more. My thought back then was, well, if I can get 5 or 6 rental houses, and if I can build 2 or 3 houses a year, that's all I need. And it probably truly is all I need. But it doesn't give me a purpose. That is a living, not a purpose. And so now, fast forward 15 years, so it's 2015. I have worked full-time jobs because, again, that's what my family told me I needed to be doing. My parents, my mom especially. You have a family, you need security, you need a full-time job with benefits, and and those things are important to a lot of people, and those benefits and insurance, that is important. But there's other means of getting that. So, the whole time I'm sitting here, adding a rental property here and there. I'm building a house here and there. So in 15 years, I added 10 rental properties. And, I was okay with that. I felt, and I was still working full time. I hopped from job to job because I'm pretty much unemployable. I can't, it pains me to go and clock in for somebody else while I'm dreaming about my ideas.
So Mike, just to clarify a little bit, you said you were working a full-time job. Was that the building company you were doing?
No. So, I was working a full-time job at night. I worked multiple night shift jobs because that would give me the freedom to work on my own during the day. So that, that working on my own during the day was, I had a land clearing company, I had the construction company, I had the rental properties, all of those different businesses that we were running. I was working full time at night for that safety net. So I was working full time, third shift, never able to spend time with my family, missed all kinds of birthday parties and events because I worked the night before and I had to sleep, or I'm going in tonight, I've got to get a few hours sleep before. So I just missed, I missed all that. And then finally, one of my lenders and mentors said, Mike, that job's costing you money. And it's like a light bulb went off. I'm like, it really is, so I've been, I was able to take and double that effort that I was given to somebody else. And I mean, it was no comparison, the income between that $40,000 a year job working in law enforcement versus flipping 2 or 3 houses. It just the freedom. But yeah, 2015, I learned. I found RIAs, and I went and I heard Bill Cook speak, and that was that changed everything for me. The creative financing and the creative deal structuring, and that just gave me so many more tools to put in my toolbox, and I was able to use those to catapult and grow my business. But one of the other things that Bill talked about was setting goals and having if without writing your goals down, you're essentially driving around without a map.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I started really looking at, okay, what do I want to do in a year? Where do I want to be in 5 years? Where do I want to be in 10 years? And writing these things down, and vision boards. I've got my vision board sitting up here to my right here, but this self-storage facility. I'm inside my self-storage facility, so I've turned my office or a storage unit into my office. So it is climate controlled. But yeah, we put this wall behind us, but this self-storage facility was on my vision board for 4 years. This exact facility.
Yeah.
So just changing your mindset and looking at where you want to be and doing it with intention, not just willy-nilly going out and doing whatever you want and however you want it. Putting yourself around the right people and working it that way.
So you spent 15 years with an idea that
Man, you hurt my feelings now.
Yeah, well, yeah, 15 years.
Yeah.
You spent 15 years buying these rental properties because you knew it was a good idea. You knew that it is going to give you passive income. And you had income otherwise with the night job or the clearing company or the building company. You had other income as well. But for those 15 years, your one thing was not your passion. The one thing that you focused on was not what you were actually passionate about.
And it's hard to look back and see that, man, I feel like I wasted those 15 years. But, I didn't have anybody telling me that real estate was so scalable, and that, 50 is just as easy as 15. The first 10 are the hardest. That's right. That's the biggest thing is just, I wasn't around the people. Again, I was sitting in my small city, looked at as, hey, you're doing some cool things, and again, I'm not ego driven, but it feels good, when people are patting you on the back and saying good job. And now I'm like, man, I was not doing anything big, and I needed to set a new direction, and that's, like I say, 2015 was when I started getting involved in the RIAs, getting educated, and setting goals and visioning and working towards where we are now.
Yeah, so I truly believe that God sends us down paths for a reason. If I would have started investing when I was 19 and had the knowledge that I have now, would I be further along? Absolutely. But I had to go down the path of going to college and becoming a teacher and being in the teaching industry and being in that for me to be where I am today. And those 15 years that you spent buying those rental properties and working and building that, I think that was very important. Because,
it is.
It taught you so many things that you're using today that you may not, acknowledge or give it the respect, it might deserve. Now it's
No,
easy to
I
Monday
definitely
quarterback.
acknowledge it. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it you know, I see it looking back. You know, is it frustrating that yeah, I should have done more. You know, I think when you have high expectations and set high goals, it's always easy to look back and say, man, I could have done more. But
Yeah.
you know, you're talking about skills that you learn along the way. I sold life insurance. Well, that was one of those jobs, and you know the communication skills and the phone sales and the you need to call X number of people to set X number of appointments to close X number of sales. You know that flows right into it. I mean, it's and then
People will
you know
spend $10,000 to learn that skill.
yeah. So I've met partners. I've met private lenders through past employment. You know, those are people in relationships that I've built along the way that are invaluable.
Hmm. No kidding. And it's easy to sit around and Monday quarterback and say, "Ah, if I'd have just thrown it to that other receiver, we'd have won the game."
Yeah,
But you can't do that. It does nothing but hurt you when you're trying to move forward. Now it is good to go back and review the film, you
yeah,
know, and say, okay, when I have this opportunity in the future, I'm not going to throw it to that receiver. I'm going to throw it to that one, and we're going to score that touchdown. And that way, you can progress. So 15 years were spent. I feel like it was God preparing you for what the next 7 years had in store.
sure,
And when you had that big mindset shift of, getting it on paper, what your goals are going to be, what is your lifestyle going to look like, how many properties do you need to support that? When you can hit that monthly nut, and feel comfortable, then you can start really aspiring for your life's dreams and aspirations of, what do I really want to create? What do I really want my legacy to be? And for me, it was, I really want to reach people and show them that they have the potential for insanely, you know, successful endeavors. Everyone has it in them. And that is my core goal, is to expose that in everyone. And that's why we started On Purpose Investor. That's why we wrote the book. That's why we're doing Dream Life University, is to push this, that you have the ability to do it. And I think what you saw from 2015 to 2022 is just the culmination of that intentionality. So I'd like for you to maybe just expand a little bit more about how did everything change in 2015? How did your business grow? Like, how much did it grow? How much did you grow? How much did your family grow? Okay.
so so yeah, we jumped in. After we started really seeing where we wanted to go, we went from 10 rentals to 42 rentals, single family, and then we're able to sell some of those that we had good equity in, exchange into the self-storage facility, agreeing increasing our equity stake and our cash flow, and then sold another 4 single families last year, and went into some larger commercial warehousing, again, doubling our equity stake, and then also doubling our cash flow there. So it's about using what you have to get what you want, to get what you need. And all of those things led to increased time with my family. It allows me to be off with my kids and go to their games and their band uh, performances, and volunteer and serve at the concession stand for the different whatever group it is that they're trying to help out that time. And it allows me to be more involved in my community.
Yeah.
It just gives me the freedom to do what I want when I want, and now it's gotten to the point to where it's given me the freedom to build houses out of shipping containers and stick them on the side of
Right.
a mountain. You
Yeah.
know, that's not typical, and it's I'm excited and happy now that I can say I'm truly doing what I love, and it's allowing me to be creative and to you know produce a product that hasn't been produced before. And it's very rewarding being able to do that, and I attribute that to um, you know a good portion of it to Bill Cook and what he was teaching and what he still is teaching. But it just changed my mindset, and once I got in that mindset, things changed for my business and my family. So my purpose and my goal is to build enough of these unique short-term rentals, produce $100,000 a month in net cash flow, and then give away a good portion. We'll just have to see what that looks like when we get there, but I'm hoping for 25% of it. But
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I love to give God credit where I believe He deserves credit. And Dave Ramsey says it all the time. God gifts you with the ability to make money so that you can be a responsible person with it. And I believe that sentiment as well. God has given many entrepreneurs an ability to make a lot of money. And unless we are good stewards of that money and are responsible with it to help our communities and help the people around us without giving them the handouts, but genuinely helping them, I feel like that is in line with what we should be doing as Christians. And
sure.
I know this is not a Christian podcast, but I'm a Christian and I'm not shy about it. So I just think it's really important to do what you said in the sense of aligning your goals with your faith and spirituality, and making sure that you are doing it in respect to why you're doing it in the first place. And that's just my perception of it. You were talking a lot about how and I don't, it's the last time I'm going to bring it up, Mike, but the 15 years, right? In those 15 years, do you think people looked from the outside in and said, wow, Big Mike has it all. He's got big income. He's doing big things.
That's one of those things that really grinds my gears and gets at me when you hear people say, there's several. That must be nice.
Oh gosh, that's one of my
money.
That's one of my worst
money.
ones.
Yeah, that and easy money. It just really, man, if you only knew. And I usually light into them a little bit. I'm like, easy, man. I'm working 2 jobs, working night shift, doing this in between, and trying to sleep in between, and then
have a family,
have a family life as well. What's easy about that?
Right.
I mean, I didn't. I've gone my entire adult life and never had a new vehicle until 2 years ago, and it was a must have for our roll off dumpster business. Again, something that I'd worked very hard for, while we're doing this at, 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 7 o'clock, sometimes 10 o'clock, I'm out delivering dumpsters to make sure customers have them the next day. It was part of what we were doing to build that business and then ultimately sell it. But there was nothing easy about it. Right. So, it just takes getting up and grinding. And, I don't really, the younger I was, the more I cared about the perception. I don't care. I don't care what your perception is anymore. I'm gonna do my thing and do it well. Amen. And you can't worry about what other people are thinking. And it doesn't get, the more successful you are, the worse it gets. Yeah.
So with those people looking in, it must be nice, easy money. They're looking in on a version of you from 7-8 years ago that you are now saying, well, I don't like that old version of me. I like the new version of me. And those people outside looking in, unless you have that new car, that flashy car, that the big business that's building 50 homes or flipping 50 homes a year, outside looking in, it looks like that is success. But now, what is actually success? What is actually bringing you daily value and daily purpose may not actually look like success from someone else. I mean, I drive around a 2013 Honda CR-V, and when I pull up, somewhere like with maybe my military group, the National Guard, I'll pull up and they're like, Vogel, why do you drive that thing? You could afford better. I'm like, it's strategic. It gets me where I need to go when I need to be there, and I just don't need anything else. Yeah. And they love to say the whole, like, they'll come, I'll go into drill and they'll be like, Vogel, did you buy another house this month? I'm like, yeah, actually I picked up 2. They're like, wow, must be nice. I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah, must be nice. That's another one. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I mean,
yeah. So I mean, yeah. The truck that I had prior to this one, was 17 years old. So I mean, it's I don't want for much. I don't need a nice vehicle to drive around. It's not. It was a tool. And that's what I pulled into Lowe's, and they're like, man, you beat this truck to pieces. It's covered, the tailgate or the bumper has got concrete where it's bags of concrete have spilled out onto the bumper and gotten wet, and the tailgate's beat to pieces. My mirror's hanging off. I mean, I work out of it.
That's right.
It's not a piece of jewelry. So I work out of it and use it.
One of those things that grinds my gears the most is people that drive those fancy, pocketbook trucks.
Oh yeah.
They ain't doing no work in it.
No.
Oh, it makes me chuckle most of the time. So I don't actually get upset about it. Well, Mike, we're gonna head toward wrapping this conversation up, and I got 5 questions to ask you.
All right.
First of all, what advice would you give to investors that are trying to get started today?
I think my biggest piece of advice to a new investor is not to compare yourself to others. Find what you want to do and go after that. Don't chase the squirrels.
So one direction, go after it.
For the first 3 or 4 years, get proficient in something before you start chasing other rabbits. It just it's not, there's so many different avenues in real estate, but I think you get in and learn what you're interested in the beginning, and then you can start adding in the notes and the options and so many different rabbit holes that you can go down in real estate, and it can get overwhelming, and then cause you to get discouraged and quit if you're chasing too many at one time.
Absolutely. Keep it simple, stupid, right? Or keep it simple, super simple. The KISS method.
Yeah, and also I would say too, if you're flipping houses, you need to be in there. I personally feel that you need to be in there doing some of the work. I feel like you need to know how to do some of these things. It's important to know. I have a construction background. I've built new houses, so I know how houses are built before I even open a wall. I know where the studs are going to be. I know where the wires are going to be. I know where pipes are more than likely going to be. I know where a header will be, and I know where load-bearing walls are. But because I've been around it. Yeah. But if you're not around it and you're taking the word of somebody else, it's real easy for them to take advantage of you. And I've seen it happen.
And there's also ways that if you're flipping a house and a contractor says, yeah, we can do this, and you do it, and you could be very liable for certain things that might go wrong with that house in the future.
Sure.
So, absolutely be careful with that. All right. So number 2, do you have any YouTube or podcast shows that you would recommend to our listeners? And listen, it can be yours if you want to do that.
Well, of course. YouTube, Mike does. Got some of our builds and some of the things we're doing. I'm getting ready to take off on the Appalachian Trail next month. I'm going to document some of that. Just Mike does a little bit of everything, and Mike does have fun.
There you go. I like that. We'll put that link in our show notes. That way people they don't have to.
That's good. We are working on a podcast, so that podcast will be up probably first of the year. So I don't
do you have a name for it yet?
I've got a few ideas, but I haven't put a name to it yet.
All right, we'll hold off. We'll hold off for now. We don't want to get it out. Yeah, there we go. We'll have a big unveiling for it. I love it. So if you had to pick one book you feel made the biggest impact on your life, what would it be?
One of my goals was to listen to 52 books this year, so they've all been great. I'm trying to do one a week, but It Takes What It Takes, Trevor Moawad, and 12 and a Half by Gary Vee. That one, golly. I wasn't always a big Gary Vee fan, but the more I listen to him, the more I love him. But that 12 and a Half is really great.
I have to get that. I've not heard of that book, so I'm gonna have to get that.
Yeah, it's full of intention and action steps. If you take them, it's crazy.
12 and a half. Okay, I'm gonna go get that book today.
Yeah, it's a good one.
All right, so question number 4: what do you feel has been your secret sauce to your success?
I feel like I've been very good at chasing the cheese. I don't know if you've read the book Who Moved the Cheese, but I feel like I've done a pretty good job of knowing where the cheese is moving and trying to stay ahead of it and trying to move out of businesses before it's before it's oversaturated. Just like the dumpster business, we started that as it was kind of a new thing to pull a trailer that had a roll-off dumpster on it. We built that up to 25 dumpsters, 25 cans. And then about the time we sold, everybody and their brother was buying dumpster trailers and starting their own dumpster businesses. It's just, and then so just moving into the next thing. We started on the unique short-term rentals a couple of years ago, and now Airbnb is putting out $10 million to design the next 100 unique short-term rentals. So just trying to stay ahead of the game and anticipating those moves. And that's kind of been where we've stayed. I try to continually move and shift as the market shift and stay. And same thing with rehabbing. I quit rehabbing houses a couple of years ago and went more to the new construction because, there's fewer people doing it. Now more and more starting to build, we're shifting off the building and, focusing more on the short-term rentals. And so that's just continually look for the next opportunities and take action when you see them.
So the identifying where the cheese may be, or identifying that the cheese is moving.
Yeah.
And then taking action.
Yep.
That next step, no one has the crystal ball to say,
no,
this is the next big thing. But just taking action. Yeah. Taking action into a different endeavor. And maybe you were the trender starter. Maybe you're the trend starter.
I won't say that. I take, if I notice somebody else doing something interesting, I'm very good at taking and recognizing that. But I'm not the starter.
What Big Mike does is he takes a really good idea and he just blows them out of the water. He's like, yeah, that was a great idea, but let me show you how I'm going to do it 10 times better. I'm just tooting your horn here. All right, number 5. Here we go. So how can our listeners get in touch with you, follow you, and your journey?
All right. Let's see. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Facebook, Michael Hicks. Instagram and TikTok, Find Your Repurpose.
Okay.
And on YouTube at Mike Does.
And you mentioned it briefly, but also you do have a couple of episodes on TV on A&E, right? What show is that on?
So A&E Living Smaller featured 2 of our tiny homes this past summer. So we're on there. I can't remember the episode number, but we've got 2 of our container homes on A&E.
Right on. Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. Go ahead and tell Tia thank you for letting us borrow you for this hour or so. I know time is valuable.
Her on there. Get her perspective on everything.
Right. That might be a really good conversation to have. What do you think about Mike?
She probably has a lot different story than I do.
Oh, yeah, possibly. Well, y'all out there in the On Purpose Investor Land, thank you for joining us on today's episode with Big Mike, Michael Hicks out of North Georgia, doing really big things with some small houses and just doing big things in general. Our hope is that today you learned something that you can take into the future and do something on purpose, do something with hyper intentionality and change your life. Guys, you only get one life. So thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear from you. Head over to onpurposeinvestor.com and sign up for our newsletter to get all the latest updates. If you haven't already, we'd really appreciate an honest review wherever you watch our podcast. All right, now go smash that subscribe and follow button for more tips on building your dream life. See you next week, Pathfinders.